Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. South 32 has okayed a 4.3 billion rand project at Klipspruit and is looking to set up its energy coal business as a standalone entity. While De Beers has placed its Voerspoed diamond mine on the market, and BHP Billiton has committed to exiting its US onshore oil and gas interests. Martin Creamer joins me in studio to discuss these converse business strategies. Hi Martin.
Hi Tracy.
What has sparked these decisions by South 32?
If you look at South 32, it's in energy coal as a mining operation. It's also in manganese in mining, and it produces aluminium in South Africa. Now it's stated that it's happy with the manganese business that it's got in South Africa as well as aluminium, but there are factors influencing it in the coal space, the energy coal space. So this particular 4.5 billion rand, well, it's not an expansion as such, I wouldn't like to call it an expansion, but it's a project to keep Klipspruit colliery going with all its people while certain other transactions take place. Now, the background to this is that it's international shareholders, and it's listed in London and Australia and Johannesburg. Australia is the main listing. So international shareholders are not happy with it being in energy coal. Some people see energy coal as something that is changing the climate of the world, and they're not happy to be invested in that. So they've come under that pressure. They also have certain challenges on the domestic front from Eskom particularly. Eskom is looking to transforming the mining of coal in South Africa. So it has deviated from the normal transformation ownership percentage of 26% now with the new mining charter 3 to 30%. But Eskom did a major leap and said, we want the coal operators who supply coal to Eskom to have a 50% plus one share black ownership, which creates complications for companies listed in London and Australia. People don't quite understand this. So against that background, it said, look, we can kill many birds with one stone here. We can satisfy our international shareholders because they don't want us to be in energy coal because they think it affects the climate change situation. We can also overcome our local challenges by taking our energy coal assets and setting them into a standalone that goes onto the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. But giving it a big boost will be this 4 billion plus investment that we're putting into Klipspruit. So it'll keep all those people employed. And at the same time, I think it is a bit of a change for South 32 because a large number of people are employed in that energy coal business, so it'll change its labour figures at the same time. But I think it's an interesting sort of go-away gesture. We'll put over 4 billion rand into the project, keep it going from April, turn it into a standalone, and then start negotiating with black interests who could take this over. Now we know there are the likes of Seriti around these days that are 80% black owned, that are looking for coal assets. So there are companies like that that may be ready to go into a situation where it is listed in Johannesburg, they become the majority shareholder, and South 32 keeps some shares. They're not too sure about how much it'll be, but it'll be a minority interest. But because they never interested in minority interests for long, that would probably reduce over time.
And De Beers is also looking to divest in Voerspoed. What has influenced this decision?
Yeah, now that Voerspoed mine has, in my opinion, never quite fitted the Rolls-Royce category that De Beers likes to be in. You know, when you compare it to Venetia, their only remaining operation now, once that is Voerspoed is sold, it doesn't quite match the high sophistication and the quality of ore body that you expect from De Beers. And I think it was launched. I was at that launch, you know, when they launched Voerspoed. I think there were a lot of political pressures at that stage around De Beers to do something in South Africa, to show investment, to show that they were active. And maybe in other circumstances they might not have gone ahead with that mine. But be that as it may, it is now coming to the end of its life. And by 2020, that mine will close because De Beers has very high criteria for its mines. And so the way they set up a mine, it's going to close in 2020. But if another owner came, as we've seen, De Beers have sold a lot of their operations, including the big Cullen operation, to Petra Diamonds. In fact, just about all the sales that of mines that they have been offloading for reasons of saying, look, it doesn't fit our quality criteria, and those have been taken over by Petra. They've all done very well, the new owners, who are able to lower the bar to some extent, do things differently, and keep operations going, and of course keep employment going. But under De Beers, this will close in 2020. So they are giving time now, 3-year period, less than 3 years, to bids coming in from other operators who would say, okay, we can take this over. Whether there's a new operator on the block now, we don't know. There's also an interesting coloured diamond aspect from that Voerspoed. So that's an interesting one, because the world does look for coloured diamonds these days. So that might be of interest. In the meantime, Standard Bank will now monitor, this coming in of a new party. But it's not always easy for that new party, because De Beers has got high standards, and people that are aspiring to take that over are going to have to not only be very technically astute, they're also going to have to be socially committed, so that the people in that area plus the employees find it a seamless changeover. And the company that's done that well in the past is Petra, but whether they'll do it in this instance remains to be seen.
So De Beers has said it's looking for a lower cost producer to come in and take over the project. Why is this the case?
They feel that with a lower cost producer, you're going to extend the life of that mine. And we see one person's meat is another person's poison. We've seen that over and over again. With Patrice Motsepe, when he came into gold, Bobby Godsall was in charge of Anglo Gold at that stage. He had set a high bar, quality bar, for his mines. And there were mines in the Free State that were below that bar. So he hived them off, and he sold them to Patrice Motsepe. And that's how Patrice got into gold mining, and he did well. He did so well with those assets. So they weren't in that Rolls-Royce category, but they certainly were in the Volkswagen category, and these guys could put their foot on the accelerator and do very well. The same sort of thing now they expect to happen at Voerspoed, where you get a different mentality coming in, more agile, sharp, flexible, moving around, extends the life of that mine, maybe finds more assets around there. Now, sometimes they do that, because normally where you've got one ore body, there could be satellites elsewhere, and you find that the mine just gets legs for some reason, and those jobs remain, which is very, very important, and the community around there continues to benefit. So as long as you can stretch them out, the better. So it's a responsible thing for De Beers to do.
And then BHP Billiton has committed itself to exiting its US oil and gas interests. What has sparked this move?
You can see all these mining companies coming under sharp attack from their shareholders. And Elliott is the one shareholder that has been like a bull terrier onto BHP Billiton. And it is been unhappy with what the company's been doing. So even though when South 32 was spun out of BHP Billiton, as we see South 32 is now spinning out its coal in a similar way, but quite a responsible way, so it keeps it going well, as it exits. The big BHP thought after that spin-off, I think that it should be quite safe, because it's got rid of those assets which are not as quality and long life as the ones that it's kept. But when it comes to shale gas, and when it comes to oil and gas in the US, this has become something that is no longer attractive because the oil price has gone down, things have changed. People look at those assets differently. So the poor decision makers of those times, CEOs at that time, they thought they were doing the right thing. But against the current set of circumstances, it's out from shareholders' point of view. So you can see them committing themselves to getting rid of those shale gas assets, again, in response to shareholders. But I find that a company like BHP is not too keen on being at new frontiers anymore. You can see how they're not keen on Africa. They left South 32 to deal with a lot of the African and some of the South American. When things get tight in the mining industry, they want to avoid that frontier risk. And you can see them retreating into safe territory called Australia. And in that, they feel safer. They have got long life assets there. And they're starting to earn that name again that they earned in the 90s when people said, BHP stands for Broken Hill Proprietaries. But we are turning that name into broken-hearted people because we, the shareholders, are broken-hearted because of deals you've done. And in that stage, they were all over the place. They were even in gold in Africa, and they were in platinum in Africa. I mean, they'd really extended themselves, and they withdrew at that stage, and they got an American CEO, and he then linked up with South Africans, and they created BHP Billiton. But you can see now they're not emphasizing that Billiton anymore. They associate that with South Africa and the South American assets. But people are calling them the broken-hearted people. So they need to change that image again.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you, Tracy.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on the mining industry.